RX Television on RxMuscle.com. This is Ask Dave, better known as hashtag AskDave, brought to you by Species Nutrition and Liquid Sunrays. I'm your host, Sadiq Faruqi. This is your 30-minute question and answer show with Dave Palumbo. All your questions on diet, training, supplementation, IFBB pros, competitions. This is Arnold Classic Week. In less than about 18 hours, both Dave and I will be boarding planes. I'll be boarding from New York. He'll be boarding from Florida. And we will be meeting in Columbus, Ohio. We are going to have wall-to-wall coverage all weekend long of the 2019 Arnold Classic. Right now, on RxMuscle.com and the YouTube channel, we have interviews with Wesley Vissers, Brandon Curry, Victor Martinez, Luke Sandow, and a couple of others. And of course, we're going to be dropping Dave's predictions, Dave and Chris Aceto's predictions for the Classic Physique Division today, and then the Open Class tomorrow. So loads of content over the next few days. Make sure you're following us on Instagram, official_RxMuscle. And of course, if you haven't already, subscribed below to our YouTube channel. As we now bring in Dave Palumbo. Dave, big, epic sale going down at speciesnutrition.com in honor of Arnold Classic weekend.
You know, these sales are starting to get me a little irked because, you know, I have to keep trying to outdo the sale before it. I know everyone loved the protein sale we had. We sold 3,000 units of 44-serving Isolized in 4 hours. So people were pissed off. I was getting emails. I didn't get a chance to buy it. Guys, when we run these crazy sales, if you don't act immediately, it's going to sell out because we're selling the stuff way cheaper than we should, you know, almost at cost. So, and we do these, you know, number one, if we're short on expiration dates, you know, we're getting down to the last couple of months, we'll do it to move inventory. Or sometimes, like in the case of the Arnold right now, I'm just doing it because it's an Arnold special and we got to do something for the Arnold. But it's only going to be till Sunday night, or I should say Monday at 12 a.m. So you guys only have about 4 days to act on this, which is a little more than you had. And once again, if we run out, then it's over. So here's the sale. 45% off Amino Evolved. That's our fermented, 100% fermented amino acid product. 45% off Testalize, which is, I shouldn't even do because that's one of our best sellers. And 50% off Creolize, which is our ultra micronized creatine monohydrate. We pulverize it and then we pulverize it again so it mixes and has very good solubility. Guys, this is, I promise you, once again, I'm going to say it, don't shoot me texts and emails and say I didn't warn you. These products are going to go super fast. So you better head over to speciesnutrition.com. You can get your Amino Evolve 45% off, Testalize 45% off, and Creolize 50% off while supplies last. The sale ends on Sunday night at 11:59. That's all there is to it. Now, I wanted to say one other thing. Sid, you know, I'm going a different airline to Columbus. I usually go Delta. I have status on Delta. I like it. They treat you well. But the prices were ridiculous. They wanted like $650 for a ticket to Columbus round trip, which I would have paid. But, you know, there's a stopover in Atlanta, which always messes me up because the weather and, you know, so I said, let me see if there's any other airlines out there. You know, I'm always so inside my box. I never venture out of it. Spirit Airlines had a direct flight from Fort Myers here for $182 round trip. The exact times I want to go, I'm like, all right, you know what? Spirit's not the greatest airline, but how can I turn that down? So I'm like, I book it every step of the way. Every time you check another checkpoint to get your things, they charge you another $5 here, $6 here, $7 here. I had to pay for to take a carry-on for $35, and then to pick my seats, I had to pick $17. So when it was all said and done, it was still a lot cheaper than Delta. So now I go to check in today. You know, it's 24 hours before, and they're asking me if I want to pay another $7 for the secret security line. Now, my question is, where's the secret security line? Fort Myers Airport is not that big. I can't imagine there being like a back entrance that I'm going to go in to cut the line or anything like that. So it's a shady airline. I hope I make it there, guys.
You should have selected yes, just so you could have made a video of the super secret security line.
That's right. You're right.
Nonetheless, what time do you arrive to Columbus?
I'm too scared. I get there actually 12. I actually leave at a normal time, 10 a.m., and I get there like 12:30. So in the afternoon. So that's not bad. I got to tell you, I'm pretty happy with that. Oh, by the way, guys, I want to just tell you, I went this morning very early. That's why I'm tired. I had to actually drink coffee, which I don't like, the regular coffee, which I never do, but I wanted to be awake for the show. I went and got a cardiac, not really a cardiac CT scan, but it was a CT of my heart where they check your calcium score. Because even though I have open coronary arteries, when I had my cardiac catheterization several years back, you can still have calcium buildup outside of the vessels, which kind of will cause the vessels to pinch in. I didn't know this. My cardiologist told me this. So I went and I got a cardiac, calcium test today, CT test, and I haven't got the results back yet. I'm hoping that I'm good, but I'm going to find out. But I will tell you one thing, and I think I mentioned this. I don't know if I mentioned this on the last show. I do so many shows, I don't remember. But if you go out and they sell pure EPA, which is one of the components of fish oil, you can buy it from, it's a company called Omega Via. You take 2,000 milligrams a day of this, in addition to your fish oil, in addition to like Omega Lights. You don't take it instead of. And they've shown in research that it actually will eat up the blockages in your coronary arteries and can clear out some of the gunk in there. So if you guys have heart disease that runs in your family or you're getting old, my cardiologist said it to be best. He said it's not a matter of if you're going to get coronary artery disease, it's when you're going to get it. So pretty much everyone gets it to a certain degree, even if you're not genetically predisposed. So for those of you neurotics out there like me who want to keep those vessels open, it's called Omega Via. I wish I owned the company, but I don't. I have no vested interest in it. But according to my cardiologist, 2,000 milligrams per day.
Let's get to the questions. Again, the first two questions from the Dave Palumbo Experience app. The first question, Dave, what's your experience with cycles not using test, something like Tren and Winstrol?
I only do like non-test cycles in the very beginning, like when the person is like a beginner, maybe the first year of cycling, year and a half. Because I don't think that testosterone is necessarily needed. But if you're looking to put mass and thickness on, I'll tell you this, the first year to 2 years that I've ever cycled, I didn't really use testosterone. I had one like short cycle that I only used because I didn't know what I was doing. I used it for like 6 weeks. I used some Sustanon or something like that. But aside from that, I only did non-test cycles. Anavar and Winstrol. I did Primavol and Winstrol. I think I did Deca and Primavol, and I looked good. I put probably 10, 12 pounds on over the course of that time period, and I was ripped, and I had my veins look like cords in my arms. I wasn't huge, but I didn't have density. I didn't have thickness. When I turned to the side, I still looked like the same skinny guy, at least in my head I did. Probably to everyone else too. But I just, from the front, I had more veins, my forearms were popping a little bit, my legs were popping a little bit. For most people, they noticed the difference, but me, who wanted to be the competitive on-stage bodybuilder, I knew that wasn't going to cut it. So if you're looking to put mass on, it doesn't happen until you take testosterone. You got to take 1,000 milligrams a week. So it's once again, it's a matter of what your goals are. If you're only like starting out, that's fine, non-test cycles. But if you're trying to do non-test cycles because you think you found some kind of magic formula that's going to give you all the benefits of getting huge with none of the negative ramifications of taking testosterone, you're deluding yourself.
Second question, again from the Dave Palumbo Experience app. Dave, do you believe consuming carbs before bed would aid in an early morning workout, or would they just be stored as fat, i.e. 250 grams carbs a day?
Yeah. I used to starve myself when I was long distance running because I wanted to stay small. And I didn't want to gain any. I actually wanted to lose weight. I was probably basically just losing muscle, but I was running faster the lighter I got. So I said, hey, it works, right? But I would starve all day essentially. I would have like a couple little small tuna and salad meals, and then at night while I was studying, which was good because it kept me alert, I would gorge on carbs, basically. I figured there's no way I could eat enough in a couple hours, to really disrupt or get me to gain any significant amount of weight. And I was right. I would sit and I would probably eat 3 bowls of oatmeal. I would probably eat, and I'm not kidding now. I don't think I've ever told the story. I had an air popper that would pop popcorn, and I would get the big bags of popcorn. There was nothing bad in it, okay? And I would air pop, seriously, I had a bowl this big. It had to be 12 inches in diameter around, and it was probably this deep. And I would fill it up. I'd probably eat 3 to 4 of those filled up a night, in addition to the oatmeal with raisins or the cream of wheat and raisins I would do. And I would probably drink a half gallon of milk too with it. Back then I could handle milk. My stomach would be, because I was like, my waist was this big and I was tiny, and I had looked like an Ethiopian. My stomach would be sticking out so much. And when I ran the next morning, I was so glycogen loaded from that meal. So it's dysfunctional. That's the problem. I think if you train early in the morning and you're eating carbs the whole day, spread out like a normal person, not like a lunatic like I was when I was running, I think it's going to accomplish the same thing. You're just putting glycogen into the glycogen stores. You don't have to do it all right before bed. And I think when you eat a huge load of carbs before bed, you blunt your GH release response. So I don't think that's a good, even though I did it dysfunctionally, I don't think it's a good way to be. I think you're better off filtering those carbs in all throughout the day.
Let's go to our Instagram questions. Again, with Arnold Classic Weekend, a lot of the content that we're going to be taking during the course of Arnold Weekend is going to be on our Instagram story, on our feed. So if you're not following us, it is official_RxMuscle. Let's go to It Is BZ. Dave, do you do insulin backstage? How much? How far before stepping on?
Well, if you want to pass out on the stage and lose consciousness and have to get a stretcher to take you off it, do insulin backstage. Do a lot of it too. The more the better. Taking insulin backstage is the stupidest thing you can do, all right? Insulin, first of all, doesn't work in a dehydrated state. Ask any type 1 diabetic how hard it is to regulate blood sugar when they're dehydrated. It's impossible. You'll see them guzzling water. I'm talking about regular diabetics. And I know, ask Jason Poston or ask Colette Nelson how hard, once the blood sugars get out of control, it is to control with their insulin when they're dehydrated. You can't. So that's not a good idea, okay, to be taking insulin backstage, especially if it does kick in and it drops your blood sugar while you're out there. Bad idea. Don't do crazy stuff backstage. Don't do crazy stuff the last day. Just coast into the show. Crazy stuff results in stupid mistakes, and stupid mistakes will cost you a show, or maybe even being in the show to begin with. So ask Paul Dillette what happened to him at the Arnold Classic when he took insulin backstage. He almost died. So no insulin backstage.
Let's go to Yvonne Banyanats. What is the minimum amount of direct fat sources if I weigh 225 pounds in the off season, eating 350 grams of protein? What should be a good ratio of unsaturated and saturated fats?
Well, saturated should be low. I mean, you need some saturates, but most of it's going to be on the unsaturated, which is your monounsaturates, your heart healthy fats like mac oil, and your polyunsaturates, which are essential fatty acids, omega-3s and 6s. How much fat you should take in? I always say a half a gram to 3/4 of a gram. If you're really trying to grow, I'd say 3/4 of a gram of fat per pound that you weigh. So you can figure that out easy enough, by getting out a calculator. But if I'm 200 pounds, half of that in my weight would be, half my weight would be 100 grams of fat. 3/4 of a gram per pound would be 150. So if you're 200 pounds, you want to take about is that right? Yeah, about 150 grams of fat per day, divided over the meals, obviously. And that's not that hard to get. I mean, that's 30 grams of fat, per meal, essentially. You're not going to have fat at your post-workout shake, so because that's going to slow the absorption of that. And every other meal, you'll have some fat. That's 2 tablespoons of mac oil. That's pretty easy. You can do whole eggs, you can do salmon. And I always, like I said, the easiest way to add fat is avocados, nuts like almonds, cashews, walnuts. And I used to crunch up the nuts, and throw them into my salad or into my rice and mix it up. I got news for you: brown rice, crushed cashews, and soy sauce mixed together is absolutely delicious. And if you want to chop up your chicken and mix it in there too, you can sit in front of the TV and eat that. It's outstanding.
Let's go to Mark Johansson. Dave, I'm new to RxMuscle as a fan of bodybuilding. I love what you guys do. I heard about your pregnancy protocol. Can you elaborate?
Yeah, a lot of people have been getting very good results with the pregnancy protocol. It worked twice for me. The third time I didn't need it, unbeknownst to me. But it basically is designed to turn testosterone production on in your testicles and sperm production. So, it basically involves 2,000 IUs of HCG every other day. Some people like to do 1,000 every day, but not everyone wants to take a shot every day. It's the same thing. 75 IUs of HMG, human menopausal gonadotropin, which is probably the magic bullet because that really directly stimulates sperm production. And then 50 milligrams of Clomid per day. I don't recommend taking more than 50 milligrams of Clomid per day because it really messes people's brain up, emotionality-wise. People get like depressed, sometimes their sex drive gets a little weird because after all, Clomid is a synthetic estrogen. So those three things work really well. And I just read an article today. Someone sent it to me, one of my listeners. And it was a study they did on injectable glutathione. Now, you guys know I love to take injectable glutathione for purposes of immune system stimulation and just general well-being and health, antioxidants. I mean, it's tremendous. TitanMedicalCenter.com sells a really good form of injectable glutathione. They send it to you on ice, and usually you take about 200 milligrams per day. The study was on 600 milligrams per day, and they gave it, I forget for how many weeks they gave it to people, maybe 2 months, and they found that sperm motility, the ability of the sperm to swim, because a lot of times you take HCG and HMG and Clomid, and your sperm count goes way up very quickly, but then it takes a long time for them to start moving properly. If they don't swim and move, you're not going to get anyone pregnant. So they found that 600 milligrams per day injected intramuscularly increased sperm motility, which I had never heard that before. That's terrific, so I may have to add that to my new pregnancy protocol, and the great thing is you can go to TitanMedicalCenter.com and you can get it. And if you tell them that Dave Palumbo sent you, they'll give you a great discount. So I think that this is, like I said, I'm learning every day. I'm glad that I have listeners that see these articles and know, hey, Dave is going to be interested in this. Maybe he hadn't heard about it. Keep sending that stuff to me because I love it. I get great stuff every day that I learn. I try to make it actually my mission to learn something new every single day.
Let's go to Ben Jacob. Dave, I'm 46. I drink a lot of milk and I digest lactose fine. No digestive problems or gas at all. Now, with that said, what kind of impact does the lactose have on my blood sugar, and will it hurt when I'm dieting down?
Yes, I certainly would not use milk or anything. Lactose is just, it's basically plain sugar, assuming you can digest it, but it's carbs. To me, it's wasted carbs. I don't like dairy when I'm dieting anyway. I just, whether you can digest it or not, it's an irritant. It irritates your colon. It does seem to cause some fluid retention between the skin. And that has nothing to do with the lactose. That's just dairy in and of itself. Milk is just not something that you should be using and drinking a lot of. If you can digest it and you don't have gas and diarrhea and stuff like that, and malabsorption of your stuff, great. Use it sparingly, in things that you like. But I wouldn't be using it as a source of milk or as the liquid portion of your protein shakes.
Let's go to Leo Broderson. Dave, I hear nowadays that a lot of pros talk about front loading to get the drug peak in the blood in the first week. Is that true? He doesn't think so. He wants to get your opinion. If you want, maybe want to first elaborate a little bit more on front loading.
Well, people, once again, we live in this instantaneous gratification society where people think that, I can't wait 2 weeks for the testosterone and the equipoise to really, get into my bloodstream in high levels. So I have to use something that's ultra fast acting so that I can feel it right this second when I inject it. The funny thing is you'll never feel anything, okay? Obviously using a faster ester like tren acetate or testosterone suspension or some orals will certainly get your blood levels higher. You still won't feel it right away. It probably still take 2 weeks before you really start saying, hey, I'm on a cycle. But theoretically, it gets in there faster. And some people's mentality is that, hey, that's something I want to do. I got to get it in faster. I don't think it really makes a difference in the long run. If you're doing a 6-month off-season cycle, who cares if it hits you 2 weeks earlier or not? A lot of times when you do those front loads, where you do fast-acting compounds like Dianabol or Anadrol or whatever you happen to be using, test suspension, you get a lot of side effects because your body is so clean because you've been off, and then you go and hit yourself, barrage it with very fast-acting compounds. A lot of times your immune system overreacts and you get that serum sickness. You get that flu-like feeling, you get the aches, you get like a little bit of a headache, you might get a temperature, a slight fever. Luckily, 2 Tylenol will reverse that, but to me, it's just not worth it. don't try to speed things up, okay? They don't need to be sped up. I promise you, the stuff will kick in and you'll be fine. And the great thing about long-actings is that even when you stop your cycle, they'll last an extra 2-3 weeks after the cycle's over. So you'll get it back on the back end. So you're not being cheated.
Let's go to Dr. Steak or Dr. Stalk. Dave, I do leg workout once every 4 or 5 days. In one workout, I'll do barbell squat, low repetition sets with heavy weight. The next one, I'll do high reps sets, 20 plus with lighter weight, and so on, alternating every time between those two types of squat. Any general thoughts on alternating reps and weight for quad development? According to Jerry Brainham's research, high reps are optimal for quads.
I don't agree with Jerry Brainham, even though I love Jerry Brainham. I think he's a very smart guy. I just don't agree with him. Research is so skewed when it comes to weightlifting. If you saw how they did these research studies with physio, there's no real level application. Not using massively heavy weights. It's just not controlled. Ask Ronnie Coleman and Dorian Yates how they got so big. They freaking busted their ass with heavy weights. That's how they got so big. Now, I have this theory that, if you do heavy weights every single week, continuously, you're going to get hurt probably. You might stagnate. So I don't mind every third or fourth workout lightening up the weights a little bit, but I'm not into high reps. Here's the reason why. Because a lot of times when you're doing heavy weights, your form starts to deteriorate over the course of several weeks or even months because the weight keeps getting heavier and you keep wanting to push and maybe you're not really ready to do the weight yet, okay? So you tend to start getting sloppier. I don't like that. I like taking a step back every 3 or 4 weeks where you're gonna actually do the same type of a workout, but with a little less weight, with a little higher, okay? Instead of you doing 4 or 6 reps, maybe you're doing 8 to 10 reps, okay? The reason I say this is if you try to do 20 rep sets, your form's gonna suck the last 10 reps because you're gonna be tired, you're gonna be leaning forward, you're gonna be using your back, you'll probably wind up hurting yourself even though the weight's a lot lighter because your form will deteriorate. That's not the purpose of doing higher reps. The purpose of doing higher reps with lighter weight is so you can feel the muscle. You can make sure you're doing full range motion. You can reestablish the good form connection, mind-muscle connection that you might have lost because the weight got a little too heavy and you were kind of using a little too much momentum and cheating a little bit. That's what I think is a good idea, rather than say, okay, you know what, last week I squatted 600, this week I'm gonna do 285 for 100 reps. It's just as too intense and it's just as overworking as the heavy weights are. You wanna do something where you're gonna actually work on technique on those off weeks that you might give yourself a little bit of a break. That's what I think is much more productive.
Let's go to the real Marco Polo. Fibrilize is great for keeping GI tract clean and working well. What do you know about colon hydrotherapy, and would you recommend doing that pre-contest?
Tony Freeman's a big fanatic with the colonics, where they basically stick a tube up your butt and they pump, warm water in there, and then they allow you to either they suck it out with a vacuum cleaner or they actually let you poop it out into some kind of a tube that, it's basically a toilet bowl you're laying on. So the question is that a good way to clean out? My problem with that is a lot of times is that you can wipe out all the good bacteria in your colon. I know they try to pump, Tony Freeman gets all kinds of crazy, enemas pumped up there where they put more bacteria in. I don't know. The bottom line is if you use a product like Fibrilize on a regular basis twice a day, you never get backed up enough that you have to do a colonic to begin with. Okay, colonics are for people who are chronically constipated, who just can't get the stuff out of their body, and they're all backed up with impacted fecal matter. The use of a fiber supplement like Fibrilize on a regular basis will keep all that stuff coming out of you, and you never ever get the accumulation of it. Yeah, and even if you do, the longer you're on Fibrilize, the more you're going to get cleaned out. If you want to go for a colonic once, just to really get one clean out and then start fresh, that's fine as well. I went for one once. It was very uncomfortable. I didn't like it. I did feel like cleaned out afterwards, but you know what? No more so than using Fibrilize on a regular basis does. It was like almost too much, and I actually did it before a show because someone suggested it, and I came in very flat to that show because I think it wiped out too many electrolytes for me because it made me go too much. But it wasn't a comfortable procedure. And once again, if I'm gonna do something that's not comfortable, I better get really good results from it. And I didn't think. I know people say you got to go 5 times. I wasn't thrilled with it. The fiber, much easier, cheaper, and it's something that's going to improve your health as well because of all the other benefits of fiber, like lowering LDL cholesterol, okay, lowering blood sugar by suppressing the liver from producing glucose, which keeps insulin levels lower, which makes it easier to burn fat, and from preventing you from getting colon cancer because you're keeping the immune system healthy inside the colonic tract.
Let's go to Howard 9. Dave, what are your go-to fats, carbs, protein when gaining muscle? Example, you're 260 pounds off season, already most max on food consumption at 100 fat, 500 carbs, 330 protein. What will be the best to add to keep the muscle building? Fat, carbs, and protein.
I usually add protein first. If that doesn't work, I add carbs. If that doesn't work, I'll add maybe a little bit of fats. If that doesn't work, I'll go back and add more protein. Here's the issue. As you start gaining muscle and putting more muscle on, your requirements for all these macronutrients increases. Because if you're 10 pounds heavier, assuming it's mostly muscle, you're going to need more protein now. You're going to need more fat because that's what builds and repairs muscle. And then because you have more protein and more muscle, it's going to require more calories. You're going to need more carbs to burn for fuel. So yeah, you constantly have to keep increasing it. But I usually, like I said, I usually go for protein first, then carbs, then fats.
But maybe a misunderstanding, but I think he also wants you to elaborate, I guess, on your go-to sources for each.
Oh, okay. Well, I usually just increase what the people are eating. A lot of times, like if they're eating 7 ounces of protein per meal, I'll go to 8 ounces. If they're doing, let's say they're doing, 40 grams of carbs per meal, I'll go to 50. I'll up it in increments like that. And I'll see then the following week if they didn't gain any weight or enough weight, I'll bump it up even more. If I want to add extra fat, a lot of times to meals, because people just can't eat enough food, I'll tell them to do tablespoons of macadamia nut oil because that's so easy to sneak into your meals. And think about it, 1 tablespoon, 15 grams of fat, 150 calories. Very simple, mix it into your rice, put it on your chicken, put it on your vegetables. It makes it taste good and it goes down super easy. You don't even know it's in your food. Once again, macadamia nut oil, not the easiest oil to find. Obviously, we make a brand from speciesnutrition.com. If you check it out on there, the great thing about our macadamia nut oil is that it comes from South Africa. South Africa has terrific soil, which means the oil is super rich tasting. It's probably, I believe it, not just because I make it, I believe it's the best macadamia nut oil on the market. And once again, only buy oil when it comes in a glass bottle. Do not buy oils in plastic. The plastic can leach into the oil. We don't want that.
2 questions, rather a question on 2 different things during prep. Cryotherapy and CBD usage during prep. If so, how frequent?
I've never done cryotherapy, I got to tell you, but it sounds kind of intriguing. Like I said, I would call it a luxury therapeutic, meaning that you don't have to do it. It's probably not going to change anything about how you look. It might help your recovery a little bit. It might shock your body a little bit into doing things a little faster. Who knows? It could even kick your metabolism up. Once again, I think most people are using it as a rehab for muscles, to help them recover quicker. If I was going to pick a therapy to use to recover better from my workout, I'd probably prefer to get a massage once a week. I would rather spend the money doing that. I think that's more productive. But if you have like unlimited amounts of money and you go for massages and chiropractic already, hey, try it out, knock yourself out. I think it's fine. Now the other part of the question, Sid, was about
CBD.
what?
CBD.
Oh, CBD, yeah. CBD is one of these things that, is probably good for people who have anxiety disorder because it does relax you a little bit and calm you down. I don't think it has a lot more applications. I can't tell you how many people in the industry have come to me and say, I own a CBD manufacturer. Or I can private label CBD for you, whether it be in vape pens and creams and nasal, injections, and when you snort it up your nose. There's a million different applications for CBD, and to be honest with you, I don't see that many application in bodybuilding yet. Yeah, sure. After you train, maybe for people who have anxiety and for people who have trouble sleeping at night, it'll relax you a little bit, but it's not like there's proven evidence to show it increases growth hormone 50%, or it increases testosterone output 5,000%. I don't see that. So to me, it's a super luxury item that may or may not have application. But if you're not using, the things that you should be doing, like a fiber supplement and multivitamin, multimineral, and essential fatty acid, and you're not doing enough, fiber in joint repair, there's so many other things that I would buy before I bought CBD that I didn't feel that I could do it justice to put out a product just for bodybuilders. Now, if I was going to put out a longevity type product with CBD in it, that's a different story. But that's really not my marketplace. That the people who buy from me want to be healthy and detox. They want the kidneys and liver to function properly and heart to function properly. Why? So they can bodybuild more. That's you guys that are listening. Yeah, you want to be healthy, but that's so you can keep working out and putting muscle on. And so I don't think there's that much application for CBD. I think that most bodybuilders who want to relax and just chill will just smoke a joint or use real marijuana. I don't think they're going to do CBD.
We have a couple of different questions about mind-muscle connection. Tube Klein wants to know, how do you improve mind-muscle connection in your back primarily, and then I guess other body parts? So I guess back specifically, and then if you have a general description for other body parts as well.
One of the techniques that I use, I happen to be very good in the gym at training people. I don't like to do it. Not that I don't like to do it. I don't have any time to do it. But I have good insight because I was a hard gainer. I had a lot of trouble connecting with muscles. I would see some guys going the first time they ever worked out and they're squeezing their back, and I could tell they feel it. And I'm going through the motions. I'm like, I don't fucking feel anything in any muscle group. I don't feel my back. I don't feel my arms. I'm just moving the weight. All I feel it is in my joints. It took me a long time to learn that. I don't know if I'm a slow learner or if I just don't have a good nerve pathways. I need to really work hard. Even when someone explains to me how to do something, like put something together, I have to listen to it 1,000 times before I create the neural circuits to enable me to do it. Then I'm really good at it though. So maybe I don't know. Maybe it's more functional because I'm like a perfectionist. So I think practice makes perfect. So one of the techniques that I use, not to belittle this point, is when I would train, I would have a training partner there. And if I'm working my lats and I'm rowing, I would have him put his fingers almost on the muscles that I should feel. As soon as he touched those muscles as I was pulling the weight back and contracting, I was able to feel where I should be contracting better, as opposed to not being able to isolate it in my mind. And I think that was a huge benefit to me. Even when I would incline press, I would have him touch my upper pecs as I was squeezing, and I just made me more aware of it. I think that's why I think a training partner is really important to getting good results in the gym. It's hard to push yourself. You need someone you trust who could spot you. But that mind-muscle connection, they're there, and they can be, just by touching, just poking their fingers into the muscle, you should be working. And I do this when I train people in the gym, the few people I train, but even back in the day, I always pushed the muscle group and touched it. And I don't think people understood why I did it, but I did it because I wanted to make them aware of the group.
Let's go to Konstantin Malamov. Your top 3 most aesthetic physiques of all time.
Oh, who knows? Flex Wheeler, Sean Ray. I'm going back to the golden era because that's.
Anyone from more recent?
There's plenty. I like Chris Bumstead, but I like Keon Pearson too. There's a lot of guys. But of all time, you got to go with Flex Wheeler. I think he might be one of the most aesthetic. Bob Paris was great too, but he wasn't that big, so it's hard to Samir Bannout, when he won the Olympia, was crazy aesthetic. Francis Benfato was phenomenal too. If you remember his physique from back in the day, there was a lot of really good guys. They weren't necessarily the biggest guys, but they were just super aesthetic on stage, and they just had lines, and just like you couldn't take your eyes off them when you saw them pose. I'll just go with Flex Wheeler as the number 1.
Fair enough. I don't think you're going to get much of an argument on that one. Let's go to Jay Warchild. Dave, your opinion on carb backloading, and how do you feel about its methodology for loading with simple sugars for your carbs?
You know what the real truth of the matter is? If you're under eating the amount of carbs you need for the day, and I hate to give any credence to these people with if it fits your macros bullshit, but as long as you're under eating the amount of carbs you need. So let's say your body needs 150 grams of carbs to keep you fully glycogen loaded. It doesn't matter really when you eat them, okay? I wouldn't eat them all in one meal. I think spreading them out makes it the most efficient, because when you eat them all in one meal, you get too much of an insulin surge. Here's the problem with insulin in your body. If you eat too many carbs at one meal, as the sugar is piling into your bloodstream, your body's cranking out insulin. And usually when the body has to crank a lot of insulin out to cover a large carb meal, it produces too much invariably. And what happens is all the stuff gets pushed into the glycogen storage. If there's extra insulin around, a lot of times stuff gets pushed into fat storage, and then you get a drop in blood sugar, and you're starving and you feel like you want to pass out and fall asleep. That's not the best way and most efficient way to absorb carbohydrates. I don't know why I'm burping. I think I drank too much coffee before this. I have to keep myself awake. I think the best way to absorb carbs is to space them out in small increments throughout the day. So you're getting small little surges of insulin, and you're absorbing the carbohydrates efficiently, and you're not storing anything excess as fat. That I think is the key.
Let's go to Sheikh Maratib. After completing a bulking cycle, how do you maintain gains when going off? How would you maintain gains back when you were competing? As you suggest, we should go completely off from a cycle before starting contest prep.
Yeah, you don't lose muscle so quickly. You know, I found this out myself, especially when you come off a cycle. You probably have 3 to 4 weeks worth of gear still in you when you stop the cycle. So for the first 3 or 4 weeks, you'll probably rebound and gain weight and put muscle on. Then about the 4-week mark, the stuff is starting to trickle out of your system. You're kind of getting down to nothing. And then you're going to be off another 4 weeks, right? So for 4 weeks, you're going to be low. Okay, but as long as you're eating enough food, you're training and creating a stimulus, and you're sleeping enough at night, you're not going to lose any muscle. What you're going to lose is you're going to lose the bloat, so you're going to lose a lot of water weight. That'll come off pretty fast, and you're going to deflate a little bit. And, over the course of, some time, you're going to start losing red blood cells, because, you're not going to be overproducing red blood cells. The volume of your blood is going to go down a little bit, so you're not going to get quite the pump you had. What you're really doing is just like taking a balloon and deflating it. The balloon substance is still there. The rubber of the balloon is still there, just like the muscle is still there. It's just a little deflated. That's why when you go back on, you blow up so fast. You're not really losing anything. And I think that's the mentality people have, is they don't understand that. They think, oh, I'm losing so much size. Look, I'm guilty of it too. I would miss 3 days in the gym and I would think I shrunk 10 pounds, but I didn't. It's in your head. And I think that's what you have to understand. 4 weeks, 6 weeks on nothing is not going to take the muscle off you unless, because a lot of people do this, they're not on gear, they don't train, they don't eat enough meals, they eat once or twice a day, they don't sleep, and you know what happens? They lose muscle. I never lost muscle. I deflated a little bit, but I never lost muscle when I went off cycle, even when I went off for 12 weeks.
Hi_Swole, please explain the benefits of vanadyl sulfate. Is this something that you have experience with in the past? What would you say in regards to vanadyl sulfate?
I used some vanadyl sulfate for a while when Sport Pharma came out with it back in the day. And my experience with it was that it really did act like insulin. When I would take it with a meal, my blood sugar would drop. I would definitely feel more pumped afterwards. And if I took it on too small of a meal, I would get low blood sugar. So I know what insulin feels like. It had the same effect, the same blood sugar lowering effect. Here's the problem I have with vanadyl. The only problem I had was how to quantify it. In other words, sometimes you just took too much of it. You didn't know. And it doesn't matter if you followed the dosage on the bottle, if you didn't eat enough, if you ate food that was maybe too low glycemic index and it didn't hit your bloodstream quick enough. The vanadyl doesn't care. It's going to push those sugars out of the blood and into the muscle cells to be used for fuel. And that's all there is to it. So a lot of times it was too much. To me, I like insulin better if you're going to use anything that in that regard, because you can decide how much you want to take and you can cater it for yourself. And if you take too much, you eat a little bit of food. It's much more accurate in terms of how much you take.
One more question from Kion.kn. And it's a question that we've gotten quite often, but again, with the new audiences, how to clear up acne from gear? There's
a lot of methodologies. I'll tell you all the little protocols that I've used over the years. Number one, I always use dial soap because I was very prone to breaking out. And when I would go on a cycle, especially anything shorter acting, I broke out worse. But the longer acting was better, but I still did break out. Dial soap, antibacterial soap, always used it. I changed my pillowcase every single night. Well, I would flip it over. I would sleep on one side. The next night I would flip it over, sleep on the other side, and then I washed it. So to keep all the grease that's coming off your body and the dirt, you don't want to be laying on a dirty pillow. That's going to cause your neck to break out, your lower back, even your chest, or face. That's another important thing. Antibiotics can be used, but not recommended. What I found was that when I would take aromatase inhibitors that inhibited the conversion of testosterone into estrogen, I would break out worse. And what I figured and what I realized at one point was that because you're blocking the conversion of testosterone into estrogen, more testosterone converts to DHT, or dihydrotestosterone, which is known to cause hair loss, acne, and of course, prostate irritation. So I figured I had to get rid of the DHT somehow because I don't want to lose all my hair, even though I lost a lot of it anyway. And I started taking finasteride, which I've been taking for a long time. But a lot of people, I'm lucky, I have no side effects from finasteride, but a lot of people have sexual dysfunction from finasteride. They have a lot of side effects. But what I did come out with, within the last 5 years or so, is I have a product called Testalize from Species Nutrition that I have everyone from women to teenage guys using it. It just one of the effects of it is it blocks DHT production only in a very herbal way, in the sense that it doesn't get rid of it, annihilate the DHT completely. It just blunts its production, so you're not producing as much of it. And it seems like it's a great acne cure. I have older women, younger women, I have men, everyone, kids like over the age of 12 taking it, and it's basically curing their acne problems, and in a very natural way, without having to take a heavy drug like an antibiotic, or without having to take anything that you wouldn't want to take. You wouldn't want to put finasteride into a kid's program. That would be super dangerous. It would inhibit them going through puberty, and it's unacceptable. So the saw palmetto extract that we use, which is in a very high concentration in Testalize, is safe. So that's what I would recommend doing. 3 pills twice a day of the Testalize, see if that helps. If it doesn't help, go to the dermatologist. Look, I had really bad acne at one point, and I had to go on Accutane to take care of it. And it cured it. So, or at least it tapered it back to the point where I was able to control it using these other variables I said.
I lied, and I'd be doing a horrible job if I didn't ask this question. So think back to this past weekend. If you haven't already saw it, it's on RxMuscle.com and our YouTube channel. Dave had a rant about Nike LeBron shoes and how they didn't have it in his particular size, and how LeBron James, despite being a size 15, as is Dave, they didn't produce a shoe in that size. So now here's the thing. Almost all the comments on that video were about Dave and whether or not he really has size 15 feet. So Dorian Popovich wants to know whether or not that is true. And now I asked you if you wanted to make a separate video on that. So if you want to give a short primer now and then maybe another video proving your shoe size later on, however you want to handle it.
I don't think it's that interesting, my shoe size, but other people seem to find it very interesting. If you look, I put a couple pictures up. My son was standing in my shoes, like I think when he was like maybe a year and a half old, and the shoe was almost as long as he was. So I have big feet. You know what? In high school, I had a size 13 and a half. Okay, when I was in 5th grade or 6th grade, I had a size 12 or 11 and a half. So my foot consistently grew. My father had a big foot, not as big as I did, but it must run in the family, and we have big hands and big feet. And that's all there is. I probably should have been over 6 foot. I don't know what happened to me. It certainly, maybe from all the running, I don't know. Maybe I stunted my growth, but my dad wasn't that tall either, but he only had a 12. So what I do notice is I did gain probably about a size to a size and a half. And I remember exactly when it happened. It was 1996. I was in Dubai with Mila Sarshev, and the promoters there said, hey, we're going to take you guys to the Nike store, outlet store, and we're going to get you guys sneakers for free. I'm like, free? I'll go. Milos will go anywhere for free. So we go to the store. We're sitting down, and they're like, what size are you? I'm like, 13 and a half. They're like, okay. They bring out the shoe, and I try it on. I can't get it on my foot. They're like, you're not a 13 and a half. Now I'm thinking they're playing games with us. I'm like, it must be some silly Dubai because Dubai was just a desert at that point. It wasn't like the Dubai it is today. It was like one store in the middle of like, God knows where. We were Timbuktu. So I'm like, I don't know. They're like, we'll bring a 14 out. I'm like, I don't wear a 14, but all right, maybe it's a weird size difference because we're in a different country. 14 doesn't fit. They bring out a 14 and a half, it doesn't fit. They bring out a 15, it doesn't fit. To make the long story short, they had to give me a 16. A 16! Now, I had a sports podiatrist I was going to at the time who used to make my orthotics for me, and because I have no arch in my foot. And that's a different video we could talk about. But I went to him when I got back and I said, hey, doc, I said, somehow my foot within the last couple months went from a size 13 and a half to almost 16. He's like, it's very possible. He goes, you have no arch in your foot normally, but now it looks like your arch has collapsed even more. Why? Because I weighed 300 pounds. Imagine that, walking around 300 pounds with very weak arch supports to begin with. My arch completely collapsed, which made my foot elongate and probably spread a little bit. And there was nothing that could be done, and that's it. Does growth hormone have anything else to do with it? Maybe it grew half an inch from taking GH, but it was the collapse of the arch. At least that's the way the podiatrist explained it to me. And when I stopped bodybuilding and I started losing weight, I went from a 16 back to a 15, which tells me that obviously I had less weight on my feet. I got a little bit of arch back. And if you guys don't believe me, there we go. Size 15, guys.
Nice.
Read them and weep. There it is.
Gotta see the number.
You got to see the number.
Tyler, you got to zoom in on that.
Yeah.
Got to zoom in
All
on
right,
that label.
let me get my shoe off here. Let me see where the number is.
This is actually happening right now.
I don't know where the number is. Can you see it?
Oh, we can see it.
Okay, there we go.
All right, let's see how close we can get in there.
You got to back it up
That's
a little bit,
epic.
Tyler.
It'll get it.
Tyler's got the manual focus on the really good camera. Why don't I hold it and you focus it? Here, give me it.
This is RxMuscle TV magic in the making right now.
I don't lie. Don't you guys know by now I don't lie? I tell the truth. I'm
2 days before the Arnold Classic.
My
RX
father said
Muscle.
no one will ever respect you if you lie, so I don't lie.
Try to find this on any other bodybuilding network.
I don't know if anyone can see it, Tyler. There it is.
It's right there.
There it is.
Bottom left, 15.
Yep. Read it and weep. Now, if Nike can only make a 15 sneaker again, I can't freaking get any sneakers. The LeBron James are out the window. I'm gonna have to go back to Jordans. But you know what happened? They started making these basketball shoes, and the basketball sneakers, instead of being up a little higher, like with a little bit of a higher arch in the back, they're like this now. Like the back of the sneaker is lower, and that screws up I get like weird pains in my foot. That's not a natural way to walk. I guess it's better for jumping if the front's higher. I don't know, but if any of you guys have suggestions, and I want all black sneakers because I like to wear them. They kind of match everything. You can't customize your shoes anymore to all black shoes. It used to be you could pick every single aspect of the shoe, and I would buy the same shoe every single time. So I know you guys out there like to research these things. So hit me up. Tell me what to do.
Well, imagine, Dave, I'm sure you saw what happened with Zion Williamson's shoe last week or a couple of weeks ago, right? In that game between Duke and North Carolina.
What happened to his shoe?
All right, so Zion Williamson, for those who may be unaware, possibly the best college basketball player of the last quarter of a century. Many compare him to essentially going to be the next Charles Barkley at the NBA level. He's going to be the #1 overall pick in this upcoming NBA draft. Duke played North Carolina, it was either last week or 2 weeks ago, and 35 seconds into the game, he is driving, or rather playing defense rather, his shoe essentially rips.
Oh yeah, I saw this.
He is 6'8", 285 pounds. If he was in the NBA right now, he would be the second heaviest player in the league. So you imagine what kind of force he puts on his shoes. So I'm just thinking in my head, so between that and between Nike not having your custom 50, if you reverse the roles, Dave, if your shoe had ripped in middle of you doing whatever, what kind of a rant would that have been?
There we go. That would have been a great rant. Now I will say one thing. I want to give thanks out there to a lot of people because lately, Sid, I guess since our social media has grown so much and the YouTube channel has grown so much, I've been getting a lot of companies contacting me, wanting me to review products. And I always say, look, I don't take money for this stuff. I don't want money. You know, especially for I'm not talking about supplements. I'm talking about regular everyday use products. Someone's chiropractor sent me a pillow that they make called Spinalign. I love the pillow. It's ergogenically or biomechanically perfect for your head. Amanda and I, they sent us each a pillow, and I always talk about it. I have it on my Dave Palumbo website. Pepsi sent us we have a classic Pepsi refrigerator. I'm going to show it on the next show. They're waiting for me to review it. I love it. It's gorgeous, this thing. They sent me, it's like you could put like 134 cans of diet soda in there, or protein shakes or whatever. It's gorgeous. They sent it to me because they want us to review it for the show. And then I just had this Spinalign. They liked the fact that I reviewed their pillow so well. They're sending me a mattress, like a very expensive mattress for my bed, my king size bed. So I have to thank everyone for this. There's another blender company that's sending me a blender too, a new space age blender. And I like that, So maybe Nike will hear this and they'll feel bad and they'll give me my black sneakers in a size 15 with no flipping in the back. I want it to be up higher.
The Nike Air Palumbos.
That's right.
Soon.
There you go.
On that note, that's going to do it for this episode of Ask Dave. Again, this Arnold Classic weekend, make sure you're following us on YouTube. We're going to be taking coverage all across the weekend. And just like what we did this past Olympia weekend, we're not going to go crazy with the edits or any production. What we have, essentially, we're going to put that up there so you're getting it as quick as possible. And then, of course, everything that we're going to have on our Instagram, between the stories, between the feed, between all the contest photos, so on and so forth. A lot planned for you this upcoming Arnold Classic weekend.
And don't forget the species sale, guys. Don't tell me I didn't warn you. 45% off Testalized, 45% off Amino Evolved, and 50% off Creolyze while supplies last until Sunday night, 11:59. Act now. I'm telling you, it'll be sold out.
The full description and the link will be in the description below. For our producer, Tyler Shore and Dave Palumbo, I'm Sadiq Faruqi. We'll see you from Columbus.